Welcome, everyone, to Agile in Color's Share Your Story series. I'm Nicole Spence-Goon, and I'm your host for today, and I'm part of the core team for Agile in Color. In the Share Your Story series, we come together for this somewhat quarterly meetup event where we profile various Black Agilists and thought leaders. And the goal here is to tell the stories that we don't normally get to hear, and to understand each person's Agile journey from a Black Agilist perspective. And so we hope by hearing these stories, our Agile community will be able to identify with the storyteller and visualize their own possibilities. So tonight, we are featuring Eval Silvera. Hi, Eval.
Hi.
Eval, back, I think, in 2020 during a Melanated Action Society gathering, probably one of the early ones. And I can't remember who brought us together, whether it was April Jefferson or if it was Devon Morris, one of the two.
Might have been April. I blame
her. Blame April for everything. So that's when I got to meet Eval. But a little bit about his story. He's a visionary Agile coach and Scrum Master, and he has worked with several large companies in many different transformation roles, whether it's with Liberty Mutual, Zipcar, and has been at the forefront of Agile methodologies. He also fosters innovation with his clients and guides those teams through large technical and complex challenges. And a little bit about him outside of work. He has a community involvement in that he's co-owner of Brockton Beer Company. And he uses Agile principles in the brewing industry and is the founder of Code Connect Inc. But I'm going to stop there because I won't be able to do you justice because there's so many things you do for the community as well. So I want you to have a chance to introduce yourself and what inspires you.
Yeah. Well, Eval Silvera, thank you so much, Nicole, for having me here. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Yeah, I am an Agilist. I am an entrepreneur. I am have my hands in everything, but I think you kind of called it out there. It centers around community. And so most of my passion lies around that, whether it's community building through a brewery, which, we're using beer as a way to facilitate conversations that, may or may not have happened recently, but are getting better nowadays. Or it's Code Connect. I've been a founder of Code Connect, which we teach kids kindergarten through middle school. We expose them to STEM or STEM-like programs with ways to either engage them and help them envision themselves in roles like an Agilist, in the future, or even in more tech or problem-solving sort of spaces. So kind of got my hands in a lot of different things.
Nice. So tell me about where you grew up as a kid.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Windsor, Connecticut. So for those of you who don't know, like Connecticut's like Northeast because it's a small state. Some people kind of forget about it. It's a medium-sized town, very diverse. I grew up running around in the backyard a lot. We would do a lot of block parties, and we'd have a lot of people. Like a lot of our neighbors were from various different backgrounds: Italian, Puerto Rican, Jamaican. And so that kind of like fostered a lot of kind of where I am today and kind of how I am shaped today. From Windsor, I pretty much, spent most of my time there. My parents moved down to Florida, and then I moved up to Massachusetts to go to university, and then, found love of my life, and then just ended up being stuck here, in Massachusetts.
So you just stay in Mass. Where are your parents in Florida?
Ocala. So like, I don't know if you know Ocala, but like, it's like horse country. It's like horse world. Like horses everywhere. Apparently, like that's kind of the biggest place for like breeding horses for like racing and all that stuff. So if you watch the Kentucky Derby and anything like that, like some of those horses were from Ocala, uh,
Mm,
which is kind of funny because like last year, I think a year and a half ago, brought the kids down. Like my first time on a horse ever was like a year and a half ago. And so like the four of us, the family, we just got down. We were in Ocala. We're like, well, we're in Rome. Like, let's actually do something that's what Ocala people would do.
right.
Um, and so we rode horses like through this like pathway. It wasn't like it was racing or anything like that. It was just more of kind of like doing little trails and stuff. But I found it magnificent. It was just really cool. Um,
Nice.
they're beautiful
Nice.
animals, you know.
Yeah, because I'm in Florida now too, but in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale, but there's some equestrian stuff going on down here too, but I did not know this is like the stomping ground for training for Kentucky Derby horses. So
It's crazy. It's crazy.
learn something new every day.
So have you been in Florida for a while, or like was that where you
Um,
born and raised from there as well, or no?
I've been here for this move since last year, but my family is down here, so I'm come down here every Christmas, do the long drive, was doing the long drive from DC down here every year, so now I'm free, free of the drive. So yeah, I used to live here for a little while before that too, so it's somewhat of a homecoming, so I like the
That's
heat.
something else. It's something I used to do the drive too, like from up here, from Massachusetts down to Florida when the kids were smaller, and we are just like, let's get in the car and go. And then we get to DC and be like, yeah, we're not gonna make the whole trip. So like let's stay here and then we'll pick up from here in the morning and then go from there. So
Yeah, it is all. I totally agree. I know. So you mentioned, and it's in your bio about where you went to university, but tell us a little bit about what got you started in the IT space. What was really that sparked your interest?
yeah, I mean, I think honestly, it's kind of like a number of things, but I'd probably say like the spark came in college. Like I actually went to school. I went to a business school. I went to Bentley University. At the time it was Bentley College. And I went to school for business and it was just like I'm going to school for like accounting. And I think I got to like sophomore year, I started taking accounting classes and I was like, yeah, this ain't it. Um, and so like at the time when, my freshman and sophomore year at the time, like they had distributed like laptops and computers to every single student. And I found myself sort of like helping students out, like my fellow students, like with computer issues or just trying to solve problems that they were having. And I just really, really started to enjoy that sort of aspect of like, yeah, here's how you do this, here's how you do that, and just kind of going through there. And I think midway through my sophomore year, I changed my major to computer information systems, and it kind of gave me the ability to do like, not necessarily like coding, but like understanding technology, but also understanding business, and then like kind of being that in between liaison between the two. And I think that's kind of what like got me started and got me excited about like doing something in this space. Like I didn't even know anything about Scrum Master, or I didn't know anything about like being an Agile coach. I didn't know anything about Agile at the time.
Hmm.
This was like way back before even that was,
Right, I think.
yeah. So, but I did, but that was kind of the area that I was just like really excited about. Like I didn't want to dive deep into tech because I just didn't, like I'm
Yeah.
a squirrel, like a dog. I'm like when I see a squirrel, like I go everywhere and I couldn't really focus. So, but I just love being around people and I love sort of like tying those two things together. So that's kind of what sparked me then.
Hmm, that's awesome. I ended up in a similar path too, kind of riding the line between business and IT as well. So I can relate. I can relate.
Mhm.
So in the coaching space, what have you found most rewarding about being a coach?
I think, and I talked a little bit earlier about like my profession and kind of like the things I dabble in is really around community. One of the things that I found in like, I'd say the last like 10, 12 years of sort of being in this space has just always been like, it's a job. I understand that. And like we do some really cool things. We produce some really cool products for our customers and we just get really excited about that. But for me, the second piece of it is really like what it does for humans, what it does for people, like who are actually working on those, trying to solve those problems. And so what I kind of mean by that is like we'll go through this. Like I'm old school, so like I don't know if you know about A Team or whatever, but like you kind of have a
Yes.
plan, you kind of come together, right? And then there's always like the cigar at the end, and everyone gets excited. Like the whole concept really brings me back to like high school basketball. It really brings me back to like this concept of like, all right, we're gonna be a team, we're gonna work hard throughout the season, and we're gonna build up, and then we're gonna get to like, hopefully we get to like the championship, and we win, and we get to kind of talk about like what it took to get there. Or in some cases, if we didn't get there, obviously it doesn't feel great, but then eventually you come back to and be like, man, I remember those moments were great. Like for me, it's always really been about like those moments in time. And so like even when you deliver something really cool, something really new, something like flashy, and you just get like the team gets really excited about something that they've done. And sometimes they don't necessarily realize it because they're already on to the next thing. But you
Mhm.
come back like 2, 3, 4 years, even if you've moved on from that company, and you circle back with some friends or so or your coworkers, and they talk about that, that's like a chapter in their lives that they never, like, you can't take that away. And
Yeah.
so like, I get really excited about that. Like that's always been a big passion of mine. It's just like, okay, as we're doing these things that are like critical for the company, like what are you doing for yourselves? Like are you fulfilling some things that are really cool? So you'll notice a lot of the companies that I've worked for, a lot of the products that I've been involved with, I've been really fortunate and blessed to be a part of something that I've like really been excited about, or it's really doing something to make a change. So like those things really matter to me and really get me excited.
Um, yeah, it's important to know your why and what your motivation is, to get up and do things every day and try to inspire and push people as well. So that's an awesome thing. So as far as challenges in the agile space, what has been a biggest challenge for you in the agile journey, a part of your life?
Yeah, I think now it's being sort of an entrepreneur and being a co-owner. So I have two other partners that help me with the brewery. You mentioned it early on, just kind of like, you know, spicing it up with some agility into the organization. And like in my mind, I see it from like top to bottom. We can be doing these things, but I also realize that like not everyone's the same, and not everyone has been through that.
Mhm.
One of my partners is a firefighter, another works in higher ed, and their worlds are just completely different, and I have to respect that. I have to also give them space for that. But it's been a big challenge for me to see, you know, something not really. I know we could do better, and we just are trying to, if you're a small business owner, you just know there's always something going on, and sometimes you just can't put attention to it. But I can see it, and I'm like, we can do something about this. And I just, and it's been a challenge for me to give space to being like, well, I can't always fix everything. And I also do need to respect and give space to others that are sort of like haven't really gotten into that yet. So it's a little off base from kind of what my agile journey has been to, but it's been the most pressing or most pressing thing that's been on my mind probably in the last like 6 to 12 months, because I'm seeing all types of areas, and I'm like, man, like, my job, we would just fix this, and we would just get in a room and we would just do the thing. And it's like, I can't corral everyone to do this right now. And it is painful, um, but we're still making it work. So it's just a challenge.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially if you see something, you want to say something.
Mhm.
Um, I wanted to think about like people coming up behind us, right? So
Mm.
the next crop of agilists or whatever shape or form they take. Um, Based on your experience, what advice would you give some up and coming agilists or, you know, growing leaders? I would even expand on that.
Mm. I mean, it's hard right now. I'll do this because it's familiar for me and because I'm kind of everywhere. But like, the craft beer space right now is also dealing with this industry is also difficult and it's rocky. And one of the things that I've noticed in both areas is just like where it succeeds is like this sort of lift as we climb mentality, right? So like us as folks who have been in the game for a minute, like you may be succeeding, but what are you doing to help others behind you? And for the others that are young and rising, like making sure that they, kind of get back to some of the basics that were done back in the day. Go back to meetups, go back to conferences, get in those groups. I know a lot of folks probably on the younger side have the energy to go do that, which is great. Continue to work those networks, continue to talk to people. I think the biggest thing for me too is like no matter how old I get or how let's not say old, no matter how much I how much I age, whatever, there's always someone you can learn from. It doesn't matter what their age. I mean, I remember one of the roles I was in, I think my manager was probably half my age. And I was just like, I was learning a ton. And I'd never looked at it as like, man, I'm older, I know more than you. It was never nothing like that. It was just more of like, how can we support each other? Because there are some things that I've seen that could help you. But at the same time, like what you've been going through, like where you are, it's like pretty cool. I'm learning as well. So sort of putting aside an ego,
Mm,
and making sure we kind of help each other out. In the craft industry, we help each other out because rising tides lift all ships. Like it's just like if, especially where Agile is today and where things are going on in the industry, we do have to help each other out. We do have to kind of focus on quality, like making sure that we are better at what we do than we were before.
mm. Yeah, definitely. Be being open to learn and grow wherever it happens to come from.
Yeah.
Um, but you touched on what's going on in the agile world right now. Um, and that agilists are not so much the flavor of the month, as it were, right now. So what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, Again, it's about quality. Um, it's it's not easy. Like I actually I'm coming off a layoff at the end of last year. And a lot of us were sort of in those roles. And you obviously understand like it's one of those things that happens where sometimes leadership doesn't really understand what's really going on, but it's easy to kind of just say like, yeah, let's just take care of that because I don't
Hmm.
really understand it. So I just think it's really difficult, and I think what we can do, like people on this call and the networks that we have, is just like, how do we help each other out? Like, how do we make sure that everyone has the resources? And I'll say this especially for people of color, because like we don't always know what, like I remember going in like 10 years ago and even going to a conference and there was like three of us or four of us, maybe five if we were lucky, and just being able to have a conversation and sit down and just share each other's experiences. And it more of that needs to happen in order to sort of lift ourselves up around quality. It's just really going to be bumpy right now because not the folks who are in charge of that stuff. It's difficult. I will say one thing too. um I've sort of been able to get away with like my first few years of like because at the time things were so much, I want to say easier, but I didn't have to jeopardize my principles around like what I believed was the right thing to do,
Hmm.
even though I knew it was going to cost like the team to either struggle a little bit in order to find themselves. Like it's got to be harder in this new sort of like in this new environment to really trust yourself, to really put yourself out there to say like, look, we might need to do something drastic for like slow down to go faster later. Like we might need to do those types of things, but it's probably harder in this environment to do that when like we're kind of on a thin rope, right? You know what I mean? So, like, how do you manage that? How do you deal with that without, like jeopardizing or just kind of going back on the way that what you believe in? that's just like, that's to me, that's one of the biggest challenges that I'm seeing. Um, but I mean, we are in this role to kind of do that. So you kind of have to go with that, you know what I mean, and deal with the deal with the consequences, I guess. But
Mm.
not everyone is fortunate to do that. We're talking about people's, way of life where they're working, their way of living. So
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, and you just have to kind of, I feel like it's you're feeling your way through it to just sensing the mood in the room kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, and like I mentioned, you know, I was laid off. I think it was like October with a final day of like December, but my wife was also laid off, as an agile coach as well within like 4 weeks. So then it's kind of like, all right, well, we're both not working. Like, what do we do? Do we move in a different direction and try to like, I don't know, like it's just really weird right now. And so um I've been leaning on just kind of reaching out to folks that I've used to work with. I'm thankful I'm back working right now as well as a full-time job, but like I still reach out just to get 30 minutes with somebody just to talk through kind of what they're seeing, what's going on, whether they're in a job or not, or see if I can plug them in with anyone that I know. So it's just really trying to help each other out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why the community, I like to call it community more than network, is really so important, and finding your people, right? Who you can reach out to and who can support you and you can support them, and learn and grow from each other. And I hope that this space that we're trying to create here will do that for people, to make sure that no one feels like they're just out on an island by themselves. So
Yeah,
yeah.
what y'all doing, by the way, here is great. I remember because it's cool because like I remember meeting, I think it was CP I met last 2 years ago. I think the last time I saw him, and just getting a chance to meet some folks from Agile In Color. It was just like, my goodness, this is just really cool. So like I think those are the types of things that are just kind of like, okay, like you can touch home base for a little bit, then go back out there and try and conquer the world. But we need groups like this. We need that space for people to kind of have a chance to vent out, or have a chance to learn, or have a chance to just like, I don't know.
Just try and figure it out. I think that's what we're all doing every day anyways. I know that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure it out. Oh my gosh. Um, so just moving on a different beat. I was gonna look more into, as an overall career, in your career, what has been some of the best career advice you've ever received?
uh I had a director I worked with, and she used to just say, just get over it. And just and as simple as that was, it was sometimes hard to do that. I've been in situations, just racking my brain. I didn't do this right. I feel like, I feel like I failed, whatever. And she would just get over it, move on. You know what I mean? Like there are bigger problems in the world that we're dealing with at this point in time. So just put some perspective around that and try your best. So the get over it was just like, it's helped me. It's kind of helped me change the way that I look at a lot of things. And when I was like first getting started, and it was just kind of like, I got to get this right and all this other stuff, man. Sometimes you're gonna make mistakes. So it is what it is. Just get over it. Try your best.
By the way, I think that's something that I know I've come across sometimes in the past, and like in our agile space, that some people get caught up on. I call it the dogma, the
Mhm.
agile
Yeah.
dogma, or having to be so strict in following the rules versus following what works best at the time. So I, I
Mhm.
I think that I don't know if that's something that comes with over time or if it's a personality thing. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I don't know. Like for me, I guess it came with time. You know what I mean? But like, I don't know. I've come in contact with so many people who do share that are just, and early in their careers. And I'm like, that's impressive to be able to do that. For me, I think it's just stubbornness. Maybe it's just like, I gotta move on anyway. So, um, that probably just comes with age, but I don't know. It's weird.
One of those things. I don't know. Um, was the other thing I was thinking about was, all right, you're just getting over it as your advisor told you to do. But is there any patterns or habits that you have developed over time that makes you better in what you do every day?
Um, like just kind of like a skill set of some sort, or just like what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, it could be from a skill set perspective or just in terms of um, how you how you work with other people, maybe how you present to others as a coach or, whatever capacity.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm speaking for myself because I don't, everybody's different. Um, for me, like it sounds cheesy, but like empathizing with like just having empathy has always been a thing that I feel like for me has gotten me further than not having it would have.
Mhm.
Um, it's kept me from, I guess, saying jumping the gun or just kind of like making assumptions. It's allowed me to help facilitate like conversations from people who are completely opposite ends. It's just really helped me. It's helped me navigate some really tough conversations. And I feel like that has been my like, I don't know if you call it a superpower, I don't know what you call it, like whatever, but like I've always felt like, obviously there's areas that not everyone's strong at. Um, and there's areas that you can always work on. And I always felt like being able to empathize with folks or being able to read the room and being able to kind of figure out what's going on has kind of helped me. It's a lot. Um, and that's not even just working with like the teams that I've worked with, but even managing up,
Mm.
leadership and folks like that, and trying to get an understanding of where this pressure is coming from and being able to ask powerful questions to folks that are in leadership positions, helping them, maybe doing five whys, whatever it is, getting them to come up with like what it actually is that's driving them to cause so much pain further down the line. Um, and then being able to kind of work that backwards and have the conversation. So like that, I feel like that's been a plus for me, and that's I think got me a lot of success, or what I deem success in this industry in this world.
Do you, going on that vein, do you have any recommendations or ideas for people how to grow that muscle or, build the emotional intelligence?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of models. Maybe I can share them afterwards. That like I know when I was doing like I see Agile, just kind of going through the coaching circle and asking powerful questions and just taking your time to just kind of draw out what it actually is. I think that's always been a really cool way of um, helping me slow down my thought
Mm.
process, but also allowing me to listen and understand what the person's dealing with because you know, like I mentioned with the brewery, it's like I see some things and I want to go fix it, but there are times I need to take a step back and maybe listen and observe and talk to people and understand it a little bit more. And so asking those questions really like slows my heart rate down. It slows my head from spinning.
Going 100 miles an hour.
Right? I'm like, oh, I gotta fix this, but just slowing it down,
Yeah,
especially if you care. I mean, if you care, then it's even easier. If you really want to like make that change, it's like you do have to be a little bit disciplined on that aspect.
yeah, that's true. Um, So how would you say personally, how do you measure success?
You know, another cheesy answer for me, it's just like I I just there's obviously like metrics you can do from like the team. That stuff is like, okay, we can see how we're doing, but that to me isn't really my personal measurement of success. What's warmed my soul, I think, has been like 2 years later, maybe I'm somewhere else or whatever. Somebody I worked with comes up to me and says, I'm better because of you.
Mm,
And that feeling right there, like to me, that's success. That is exactly what I wanted to happen because, you know, believe it or not, like pretty much everywhere that I've gone, we've either done some really cool things and delivered some cool things, or we didn't, or we did some and some we didn't, and that's not going to change.
right.
If you can change somebody's life, I mean, even a little bit, and even if that change isn't specific to their work, like maybe like making me a better person, like seeing things differently or asking certain questions because that's what you did when we were, when we were in a team and we were doing those things. Like to me, that's success because like, I mean, it's borderline kind of moving in from like coaching in agile to like almost life coaching, but to me that it kind of is the same thing for me personally, because I want to make
Right.
an impact on your life as well. I don't want to just like widget build and stuff like that, even though that is cool too sometimes.
Well, yeah, it's cool to actually make some widgets sometimes that works, Crazy thought there. But so that's kind of like, it creates some inspiration for those people that you happen to touch. But who do you look to for inspiration, or who do you look up to?
There's somebody here on the call, Steve Vance. He was one of the first people I came in when I first got started as a little scrum master, and he helped me. Steve, I don't want to embarrass you, man, but I remember coming to Zipcar. I remember the first thing we learned as coaches was like this concept around T-shaped, and and you created this really cool team of people that specialize in all of these different areas. But when we came together, we learned so much from each other. We just as a group of agilists, we grew exponentially because of that. And I've always taken that wherever I've gone, and whether it's been building teams or being around other teams and helping them form those types of teams. It's always been magical because I think we talk about bringing people from different backgrounds or you're getting different perspectives. And if you can do that, you're gonna find yourself building something that's whole. And so Steve was definitely one of those people. He's always inspired me. I have to mention Trisha Broderick because I think she was the first person when like
Yeah.
the first conference I went to, um, she actually shared her experience with a team and how they worked together and how their lives were being changed. And I remember sitting there like at the end of it, I'm just like, I'm not crying. It's just so but Trisha was definitely another inspiration. I love what she's continuing to do. It's very inspiring for folks like myself. So yeah, I can name off a bunch more. I mean, everyone's had some piece to play in my story and my journey.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, hearts to Trisha too. She is awesome. Awesome, awesome.
Love her.
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, so many Trisha stories. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
go on. But you know that you've had some good I'm trying to focus here. Um, in terms of your work experience, you talked about having some good experiences in some of the places that you've worked. Um, but what qualities do you see um, that are missing in modern leaders today?
Yeah. How much time we got? 'Cause
Not a lot.
Oh,
But
this is
you
being
can give me
recorded.
your top one.
I gotta be careful. This is being recorded. Say shit. Um, there's just such a lack of inspiration, like inspiring others to be great. Like, how you gonna call yourself a leader and like, and people around you and people who are in your organization don't feel like they're growing or don't feel like they want to grow. Like to me, there's just a lack of inspiring leaders that are out there, right? Um, I've been fortunate to be around a few. I've been, less than fortunate to be around majority that aren't, and it's unfortunate. But when you do find somebody that like, is doing that, you just want to be better as like in your career. You want to, you want to make sure things are going well because you believe in it. You believe in not only just the mission or what it is that that company is doing, but you want to follow that leader, um, to what their goal and like their success is or what their measurement of success is. And it just goes beyond the actual product itself. Like, anyone can talk about like I've worked with a lot of product managers that have talked about a product that made me excited about the product.
Mhm.
But how you carry yourself, how you talk to people, how you manage your teams, like that speaks volume to me, and not even just the words, but also the actions. Um, and it's just I just don't see a lot of it, And maybe I'm asking for too much because we're talking about being in like a corporate setting, and it's just
Mhm.
the way society's always been built. But I just see the lack of inspiring leaders. Like it's inspiration for me,
Mhm. Yeah. Well,
you
I
know.
mean, I don't know how you can have anybody be excited about your business, your products, your company, um, if you don't bring the people along with you in that and not treat them like minions to do your bidding, but more like competent individuals who are lending their creative talents to your mission.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, I totally, and when things don't go so well, and you're going to be the loudest person in the room, but like bring that same energy when things do go well.
mhm, absolutely. Recognize, recognize, and really just, I feel like it's just seeing people,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
It's not even that hard. Like if you care, say like to me, it doesn't seem that hard. But what do I know? Just the guy over here, just
Oh, well, you just care about people too much. It's not
right.
important, not important whatsoever. Anyway, I digress. Um, so talking about qualities leaders are lacking, um, what was the biggest uh mm, or the worst decision you ever made as a leader in
Oh,
whatever space, whether it's in Agile or in your business?
oh yeah, the business. There's been a ton of mistakes, but I think that's just kind of the nature of that. I think in the agile world, I think there was a time in my earlier years leading a team, and they were just not they didn't work well together. And I, my stubborn ass, like I just kept them together when I knew I should have transitioned them away from each other into like better positions to succeed. Um, I mean, it was bad. That was one of the worst decisions I've ever made was holding on to that team. And I had people crying in meetings. I had people throwing
Oh,
chairs, I had people slamming doors. Like, yeah, it was bad. I'm just sitting there like, but I'm this coach that can pull it together. I'm just like, we're gonna do tomorrow. We're
I
gonna
can work, I can work miracles. Yeah.
And it was like it was bad for everybody. It was uncomfortable for a lot of people. Um, and I was just really hung up on like we can't let this go. Like we gotta fix this. We can make this happen. And no, I shouldn't have done that. And eventually we did. And then it worked out. It worked out because all of them were like, they were going to dinner together. Like they were in different teams and different like locations, and now they were good friends because they didn't have to work together.
Uh,
And I probably was like 6 months late to do that. And that
yeah.
was huge. That was a big deal because a lot of bad things happened during that time, and that was probably a really bad decision. But the flip side of that, I learned a ton about dealing with those types of situations, and it has not happened since. So
There you go. And learning from our experiences. And the point here for those attending and gonna watch this later is to show that, we all make mistakes, but we can recover from them as long as we learn from them. As my mom would say, those who can't hear must feel until they figure it out. It's basically like, yeah, you're just going to keep on repeating that until you learn that that's not the way. So better to do it sooner than later. So that's good.
yeah,
That's what we want to do. We want to learn. It's not failure. It's really just trying to learn as fast as we can. So
yeah, and those, I mean, it hurts. It hurts like obviously those types of things hurt right away, but like
and
over time you start to realize it. And I think as you get more experience, you then start to realize that like that comes faster, like learning about it faster. Like it no longer becomes like a thing that you're just like, I'm not that good. It's just whatever. It just becomes like, okay, what did I learn from that? What can I take from that? And let's like build from that. That's just kind of how it is.
yeah. How do you just thinking about recovering from that? How do you how do you do it? Like, how do you build that resilience?
For me, it was time and repetition of failing so much. But it takes time. And then like the how is just kind of, I mean, you can reflect like you do, like whether it's like a retro or something like that. I started doing a little bit of that. Um, I usually just try to change up my cadence. I try to change up things in my life a little bit, and try to give myself space. Um, you know, I've tried meditation. Sometimes that would work. Obviously, like it doesn't, for me, I couldn't stick with it. And then I'll bring it back. I'll come back again and do it, and it does help. But there are other ways to just kind of like take a step back and just kind of think through what you saw, what happened, how do you learn from that? I also think like one of the hard things is it's just kind of like believing in yourself is not an easy thing to do. So like if you combat the two things, it's like, you'll make mistakes obviously, and how do you recover and learn from that? But like how do you not fall in the trap of like whether it's imposter syndrome or whether it's just like not believing in yourself? And I don't know when it happened to me. I think it might have been like maybe like 10 years ago. I started to not really worry about those types of things where it was just like, like I'm putting my attention into community building. I'm putting my attention more into like making sure that whatever I get involved with, like I want to make a difference for people, kids, the community, whatever. So whether it's like the agile space, whether it's the nonprofit space working with kids, or whether it's the brewery and trying to create these community spaces, um, it's super important for me to be into something I'm passionate about and that I do care about.
Yeah, that's true. That will help, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. Because then like even with all that, then I don't have to really come back to like, all right, well, I don't think I'm doing it well, or am I not believing in myself? But it's like, but that stuff doesn't really matter because like you can see what you're doing in front of you that like is helping.
Yeah.
Just like go with that, and then like you'll feel better about yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and even in the smaller things, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a direct thing that like you're automatically helping people or whatever. Find that passion and make sure that that makes you feel good,
Yeah.
and then build off of that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely, I, I totally agree with you by focusing on the things that you do well, because it's like this one bad thing does not define you as a whole person. There are plenty of other great things that you're doing as an individual. So try to focus on that and use that to propel you forward. So yeah, totally on that vein. Um, but there's before I get to like wrapping it up soon, I wanted to think about, that's things that didn't go well, but what is one of the biggest risks you have ever taken?
Um, I wasn't prepared for this answer. I don't know what I want to say. Well, I know like the one that's like top of my mind was kind of personal. It was just like, you know, I was going through the like layoff and looking for work, and I had a couple opportunities, and I was just like, one opportunity came in front that was, I want to say it almost felt like the dream job to me. Like it wasn't necessarily in the agile space, but I could use the things that I've learned. Um, and I ended up, the risk that I took was that like there was a really cool job that I got an offer for. And I didn't want to, and it was just the timing didn't work out. So it was just like, all right, well, I have to either say yes or no. And I say no because I'm going to say no because I want to pursue this other opportunity that I think is just going to really mean something for me
Yeah.
and my family to some degree. But and so I chose no. I took the risk. I said, I'm saying no. I'm going for this. Like I'm going for this like massive opportunity because it's checking all the boxes for me.
Mhm.
And it was going so well. I got to the final interview, the final panel interview, and everything went really well. And they were just like, we decided to go in a different direction. But I took the risk.
Yes.
Um, and I didn't get that job. I didn't go back. I called back and like, you guys filled that, but they filled it, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, but it just reminded me that like if I had taken the job and didn't go for the quote unquote dream job,
Mhm.
I just don't think I would have been happy with myself. So it
Mhm.
was worth the risk.
Right.
I'm beat about it, but like it was definitely worth the risk. And so it's not specifically an agile type of risk if that's where we wanted to
Yeah.
get to. But for me, it was just a reminder that you do have to do those things occasionally to make sure you can sleep at night or just have peace with yourself.
Yeah.
So I was okay with it afterwards. Well, not right afterwards, like 2 weeks afterwards, I was just had to
Yeah.
hold when I was struggling. But I was okay with it. I was like, you know what? Like I said, I would have it would have felt worse if I didn't go after it. So it's just a reminder, just sometimes you gotta take those risks.
Yeah.
Um, and I was fortunate that something else came up. And I was able to take advantage of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, nothing in life is guaranteed, so
Got that
so
right.
take that leap of faith. It's because that's true. It will just eat away at you because you're like, but what if I did? What if I do that? What could have happened? All that. All right. Well, we're running out of time here quickly. So I wanted to at least end with, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want everyone to know about you or about your experience as a whole?
Um, I'm available. Like I'm on LinkedIn, so hit me up. I'm bad at getting back to people though. Like it takes me a little while, but don't like take that as like I'm just blowing you off because I genuinely love like even if it's a quick let's grab 15 minutes on a Zoom. I'd love to hear your story, whatever. Like, I'm totally all about it. You know, and everything that's been going on over the last like year in my life, you know, like all the stuff that's happening.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of getting back to reconnecting with people. So like I'm excited and hopefully get to chat with some of y'all.
right. You heard it here, folks. I'm gonna put his LinkedIn. I put my LinkedIn in the chat. I'm putting his in here. So you heard it here first. Go ahead and bug him incessantly. No, just kidding. Um, I wanted to at least leave a few minutes if anybody had questions for Eval while we have him for a few more minutes. Anything that he mentioned or talked about that you want to know a little more, or if you just or Stephen, if you just want to rib him a little bit in front of everybody, you know.
Roast me.
This is a safe space.
You
No,
took the camera off. I
working
got
with
nervous.
Eval was an amazing experience. It
Uh,
really was.
awesome. Awesome. So great to hear.
So I would like to add, it was a great talk, and I thank you guys so much for your time. And I just want to add, I'm a product manager, and I do care, Evolve. So I do care about the people. I am people first, but I do understand what you're saying, where, you know, in corporate America, it's not, you know, the norm to be people first, but I am a leader that leads first.
And I appreciate you and like I will say this, like when it comes to people, especially product folks, when you do care and like you're doing the job, but you also care, my goodness, I see leaps and bounds like teams going through the roof, through the wall for you when you show that because they feel like it's a partnership. I think that's been the one biggest thing that I've always seen work really well is when our product friends are like, we're gonna do this, like, and you know, here's why, and all this stuff, like, da, da, da. And they care and they're right there with you. My goodness, man, I've seen some incredible teams. I've been a part of some incredible teams. So yeah, good for
I
you.
100% agree with you. Yes, that's when you ship out the product and it goes to production and it's a success because you all work together and built on each other's strengths. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Coco. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Any other questions or comments? Doesn't have to be questions, just you have a comment to add from his sharing. Well, it has been a pleasure, you
This
all.
was awesome. I felt bad because I was like, I'm sitting by the sun, and so I had this glare. I'm like, when will this go away? And now it goes away. It's just-
I got like all my curtains closed over here because I was be sun shining right in my eyeball. So I hear you. I hear you. But it has been a total blast. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your experiences, trials, successes. This has been great, and I know this will be great for the community as a whole to hear these stories. And please, everyone, connect with Eval. He's got more stories for sure that we didn't have time to share.
Thank you so much for having me. This was incredible. I truly appreciate you and what you all are doing, you and your team. This is what it's all about. So I thank you so much.
Absolutely. Please connect. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I have a piece of homework for you.
Oh boy.
So he's like, homework? Nobody said there was homework on this. So the practice that we have in the Share Your Story series is that whoever is our featured agilists of the night, they have to tag who's going to be the next one. The only caveat is that we alternate women and men, so it'll have to be a woman who we should spotlight next. You don't have to answer now.
Okay. All right.
I know you we're going there. You can definitely let me know later, but Just so you know, that's the practice we like to do because it actually keeps the community connected. There's a link to each other. So
I can do that for sure.
awesome. Great. Thank you so much. And
Thank
thank
you.
you everyone for attending tonight. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next Share Your Story. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks again.